They want to pick up 15 members. Just think about what happens if they pick up 15 members. If they pick up 15 members, they now have the Senate, they have the House, and the President can do whatever he wants with his last 2 years of his term. So that's what we really have to think about. So when you're looking at Congress and you're looking at the direction government's going, and even though you get frustrated sometimes, and believe me, I get frustrated a lot, and I got to deal with it every day, just please keep in mind the bigger picture, that we can stand hard and say we're going to do this and we're not going to do that. We're going to do, but if we lose 15 seats, just can you imagine what those next 2 years will be like? So that really has to be what we're thinking about over the next 2 years. How do we make sure we maintain the majority? How do we make sure we don't give up on our values? And let's face it, I'm a conservative. I think we're spending too much money. I know we've got to change the direction of Washington. But ultimately, we get thrown out, and you're going to be wondering. It's going to be really very quickly before this country is in a lot of trouble, because we are right now the only stop for the president's policies, and we right now think we at least have him cornered, where he's got to get us to agree with him, or nothing can get done. And that's really the message that we have to get out there. And then we really have to start looking at some of those single issue voters and try and make sure. Remember, there are a lot of Democrats that are pro-gun. I mean, it's one of the things I go around and I talk to the Democratic groups. I was with the union group yesterday, and I asked them that, how many people are pro-gun. I mean, they voted for Obama, but if you use the pro-gun issue, that's an issue that I know you can pull some people over. So we need to start being smart over the next 2 years and looking at that. We need to start gearing up for the next 4 years, preparing for the same thing. But the number one thing we need to do, we need to make sure we educate the 18 to 44-year-olds that we know that are around us, that are part of the voting group. We need to not forget about the 45 to 80-year-olds who, still don't get it and maybe voted for Obama. And that's what we have to do. This has got to be by education, because that's probably where we failed in the last 2 years. We did not educate enough of the 18 to 44-year-olds to realize that, this voting for Obama and what you're going to get. Now, before I open up for questions, I will tell you, they're going to find out what they're going to get in the next 2 years, because the health care plan is going to really kick in. You got to admit that President Obama was pretty smart. I mean, he got a bill passed 4 years ago and put all of the real changes into his second term. So now we've got things occurring in the health care plan that will really start occurring not only this year but next year. I mean, think about this. The Affordable Health Care Plan is what it's called. I'm just going to give you 2 pieces that are going to change the definition of affordability. And this is in law right now. The definition of affordability means that no individual should have to pay more than 9.5% of their gross pay toward the payment of their health plan. 9.5%. Now, I'm just going to put that in perspective. Think of that person who makes, I'll use $100,000 a year just for ease of numbers. Think of that professional out there that makes $100,000 a year. He's got to pay $9,500 towards health insurance, when the average health insurance cost is about $5,000 a year. Let's also think about it from this standpoint. The Affordable Health Care Plan says that the company does not have to cover the spouse or the children anymore. You can charge 9.5%, but you do not have to cover the spouse and the children. I mean, is that really affordable health care? Now, you can cover them, but you can charge them for it. So take that 9.5%, even on somebody that's making $50,000 a year, it's $4,500. But now if the company says, look, I can't afford health care costs, so your spouse and your children are going to have to charge you more. Is that affordable? What's going to happen there? It will be cheaper in some cases for businesses just to pay the penalty. $2,000 a year to not have to cover their employees on health insurance. I mean, that's kicking in here pretty soon too. I'll give you an example. I had a Calgary County executive, one of the members of the council said to me, it costs us $8,500 a year to cover our employees for health insurance in Calgary County. If we pay the penalty, it only costs us $2,000. We save $6,000 per person. We have 8,000 employees. Do the math. They take that money and they put it against their debt, and they push all of that liability off to who? It's all going to come to the taxpayers eventually. This affordable health care plan is going to kick in, and I think people are going to realize it. It's going to take a while. The pieces are just starting to come forward. I mean, and everything I told you, that was actually given to me by, I sat with a group of CPAs, and they said this is what they're advising their clients. So I mean, I'm giving you the advisement of what they're telling their clients they can do. Once that starts hitting, I think there's going to be a turning point. I mean, even those people that believed healthcare plan was good, they're going to have to sit back and say, wait a minute, I don't want to pay this. Hold on a second, I don't want to, this isn't fair. So that's what we're going to have kicking in the next 2 years. It'll be an interesting 2 years. It's going to be an interesting 90 days. We got 60 more days. And I will tell you, it's been an interesting 2 years for me. It's the first time I ever spent New Year's Eve alone, because we all went back to Washington on New Year's Eve. Actually, we went back, I think I was home for 3 days between a week before Christmas and a week after Christmas, and spent New Year's Eve hoping that we get a bill done. I know you had, did you have Senator Portman here?
Yeah.
Yes. Little disappointed in the Senate. If you think about it, New Year's Eve, they were there too, but that bill came out at 1:40 in the morning and was passed by a bill that took me all day to read the next day was passed by the Senate by 2:30 in the morning. That's the kind of thing that I think has to stop in Washington. You know, if you can't read the bill, you shouldn't pass it. And, you know, Senator Portman might have had it in advance. It would have been the one question it would have been interesting to find out, you know, that how did the Senate get that bill at 1:40 and pass it by 2:30? That's a concern I had. We spent all day, New Year's Day, reading it. I had my staff in there reading it, dissecting it, and figuring out what was in it. It's going to be an interesting 2 years, but I will tell you this, never lose faith in this country, and I know none of you here will. We've been here before. The one thing I have had the privilege of learning, we've been in worse positions than this in the past. 1979, if I sat here, and if we went back to 79 and we're talking right now, things were worse, believe it or not. And then we had somebody by the name of Ronald Reagan. But you can go back in history a number of times that the country has faced the same problems, because this isn't, we think this is the first time ever. The only real issue today that's growing is our debt. But we've had the same crises before, and we've had debt crises in the past too. What we have to do is realize we have to turn it around, because the one thing that has changed, it might be a little bit different, and I told you that in the beginning. The voting block, the majority of the voting block is 18 to 44. We need to make sure they're educated and understand what's going on. With that, I'll kind of open it up for questions.
All right. 18 to 44-year-olds. I think a lot of them are educated. I think they're getting a lot of free stuff. I think that's why you got their vote and buys them, along with people coming across the border all the time. And what else am I saying about that? Not really nervous, I forget what I'm going to say. executive.
Well, just to respond to that, keep in mind, the 18 to 44-year-olds, yeah, they are educated, a lot of them are single issue voters. I mean, let's face it, a lot of them voted. I had a lot of people come up to me, and I'm pro-life and I'm never gonna change, but I had a lot of people say to me, because they are pro-choice, even though they're conservative, even though they're staunch conservatives, even though they're fiscal conservatives, they could not vote for Romney because he was pro-life. I mean, those are the kind of things, let's think about that. Put that to the side. I mean, we need to make sure our country, that's the education I'm talking about. I think she was next. Really don't have to. I think the Supreme Court just did.
District Court.
Well, I think at this point in time, the Supreme Court's made that ruling. Again, that's a Senate issue. You know, the Senate confirms those issues, and they're going to have to take that out. But let's face it, we have the Supreme Court on it and on our side this time. Thank goodness. I wish they were on our side on the healthcare plan.
Hi, Congressman Renacci. I have a number of questions I want to ask you, and I'll try to it all ties in. First of all, I think congressmen should be extended from 2 years to 4 years, because as you get in 1 year, the second year, you have to start going out and soliciting votes, and I think that's redundant and absurd that from my position. And I think all bills that you have should stand alone by themselves. That's just my first thought. Secondly, my understanding is part of the TARP money went to media concerns like Cleveland Plain Dealer, Chicago Tribune, Los Angeles Times, and the New York Times. My understanding is that's the reason why they will not write anything negative about our current president. Third point, there's a lady named Susan Daniels out of Geauga County who's a private investigator who filed a lawsuit in the state of Ohio. It was never heard by the Attorney General with regards to Obama's Social Security number. It came from Connecticut in 1977 or 78. This was never heard, was never seen, we never got out there in front of Ohio. And I want to know, as a current thing, this is my theme here of all my questions, is why is there not anybody on the conservative side of this coin that stands up for these issues? And I'm going to continue. The next item, Romney, when he was debating, never asked the President, why is it, who said or gave the order in Benghazi to stand down? I'm ex-military, and to me, this is an impeachable offense. My next item is on Fast and Furious. Eric Holder is the Attorney General. How he can be reelected without being put up against a council of congressmen or senators and not be charged for treason is beyond me. Because what he did was they confiscated those weapons.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, well, I just want to wrap it all up. My question is, where is the conservative person or persons out there like Boehner used to be that will stand up for us and say something to the president that says, hey, we're tired of this. We want somebody to stand up there. I'm extremely frustrated by the fact that nobody stands up for us. What they're doing out there, 4 people, he lied and 4 people died. Nobody asked Hillary Clinton about who gave the order to stand down in Benghazi. When you have people that are ambassadors out there working in a public capacity for a government in another country, you're supposed to support them and protect them. That never happened. And I'm appalled by what's happening right now. And my other thing was regarding gun control. You know, they have over here, they're giving guns away over here with Fast and Furious. And in Washington, D.C., they wrote legislation back in July of this year for the second item of the executive order regarding HIPAA, so they can access people's records that they got medical
Pardon me,
conditions.
we've got a guest speaker here and you're taking the floor.
Well, I'm not trying to take the floor. My point is.
You are taking the floor.
All right, well, I'm sorry, I have a lot, my question is.
I know, a lot of us are upset.
I am very
But we have
frustrated,
a
but
guest
where is the
speaker, we wanna hear
conservative
from
person
him.
stand up for us? That's my point.
Well, keep in mind, Benghazi, Holder, all of those things are under investigation right now. Everybody would love it to move quicker, but they're all under investigation. They're all under congressional investigation. They're all being, I mean, we just had hearings on Benghazi this week. Fast and Furious is under congressional investigation. They're continuing. Just like the court system, sometimes court systems take, months and years. They're under investigation. I know it'd be nice for us to say, bam, we got you. It's under investigation. So those three things are being investigated and being investigated on an ongoing basis. I think when it comes to the president, let's face it again, he just got 50.6% of the vote. He got reaffirmed as the President of the United States. No matter what, whether we like it, don't like it, he did win an election. And I think he's won it twice now. So I'm not sure what else, you can do in that situation. And 50.6% of the American people said they wanted him to be the president. I'm frustrated with it, you're frustrated with it, probably everybody in this room is frustrated with it, but he just won a second election. That's what we have to deal with.
Yes. I'm kind of wondering about, why are we going to give airplanes and tanks to Egypt?
Yeah.
Are we getting into another war?
Well, again, that's being looked at. You're right, that just came out this week. I think those are the things that when we get back next week, we'll start looking at, talking about, and seeing the reasons for it. I agree with you, we need to take a look at it.
Mine's a little easier. Obama and Hillary were on television again, on 60 Minutes. Throughout the entire campaign, you're trying to get the 18 to 44-year-olds. They were on television, or Obama was on television all the time. Every talk show, who speaks for us? Who is our focal point that can get on television and be cool so that kids can see that conservatism is cool?
Well, if you think about it, anytime the president talks, he's gonna get on TV. That's why, just some statistics we have to look back at. The reason why most presidents after 4 years get reelected, I think they're all but 3 in the last, I forget how many years, is because they have the microphone. And they can get up and they can talk. I mean, George W. Bush got reelected, even though people were frustrated with him, because he had the microphone. I mean, so you look at it from both sides. It's the media. That's a media concern. I don't disagree with you. But let's face it, when you are president, you get the microphone. Do you realize that Boehner is on TV every day? How many times have you seen him? Right. I mean, think about that. He's there. Do you realize that 435 members of Congress are all on TV? I mean, I'm on TV tomorrow. I was on TV last week. You don't, because...
You're not on David Leonard.
I understand, but I'm saying there's a reason, because he's the President of the United States, and it's one of the things that the President does have one voice to speak from. One of the biggest problems in Congress, and it is an issue, you have 233 members of the Republican Party, 200 members of the Democrat Party. I'll speak to the Republican Party. They walk out of a room, they all have the same message, but they all say it a different way. And that's a problem. The President walks out of the room, he has one message, it's said one way, and he has one other guy that speaks for him, and he says it the exact same way. Nothing changes. They say it, and they say it, and they say it, and people hear it. When Congress comes out, and you have 233 members, they don't say the same thing.
Maybe we ought to invest in some teleprompters.
I only have this one microphone with a short lead.
You can hear me. I've learned in running for local offices over the years that name recognition is really important to get elected to an office. And I think it's time that the RNC puts together a group of 4, 5, 6 potential candidates to win the next election for the presidency. Get that name out there and get the people recognizing these people, so we have, and their positions on what goes on. We keep talking about what we have done. We need to get away from that and talk about what we can do. Good point.
Think about this, the last couple presidents have all been no-names. Nobody knew them. I mean, Obama, nobody knew him. Clinton, nobody knew him. Came right from nowhere. I mean, so think about some of those issues. Even Ronald Reagan, not too many people knew him. I mean, and again, it shows you, I just learned this last week, that I thought Ronald Reagan, when he came out, of course I was a young lad at that time, but once he came out, he actually got trounced in '76. I mean, so that you really have to come out and get to be known, and that's one of the reasons why they don't do that, because a lot of times, American people want to see a new face, somebody that they feel that they most, what's the word that people say, that they feels like it's them, they can relate to it. That's what American people want to see, and once you start putting that person out there, and they get glorified on TV, they lose that. And that's one of the things that again, I'm just giving you information. This isn't Jim or Hazy facts. But if you think about it, it all does fit pretty. Where was it? Nobody even knew who Obama was. Nobody even knew who Clinton was. These guys came right out of the woodwork.
Hi, my name is Tim Marshall, and talk about name recognition. I had two granddaughters. This was the first time they voted in the presidential election. And despite all the emails we sent them and sent their parents, they both went to the polls and they told me the only name they recognized was Obama, so they voted for Obama. I have one other question. What's your position on gun control?
I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. I mean, it's pretty simple. I think that we have issues with mental health. I think the president's, if there's one thing that I would agree with what the president said, was we probably need to look at the mental health issue. You know, out of all the major tragedies we've had over the years, I think all but one were related to somebody who had a mental health issue, and I think that needs to be considered. But I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. By the way, on guns too, it's kind of interesting. Everything that the president put out there would not have made a difference in